Hi, I'm Andy Acker, Director of Education for Schluter-Systems.
And I'm Bryant Bouchard, the Regional Manager for the Northeast.
So what we're going to show you here now is a couple of line drains that are at the front of the shower. Now, Bryant, this is a little different application than typical line drains because they are outside of the actual shower stall area.
That's actually a pretty good idea, Andy, because we can use a slightly wider drain. So we're going to make sure we're collecting all the water that might be heading this way.
And another benefit is that we can actually connect them together so we can have continuous line drain, and that will prevent any water from getting outside of the shower.
Right.
Now, a couple other things we're doing here is we already have one of our point drains, a KERDI drain, installed in here in mortar. But over here, we don't have an extra drain. So on this side, the line drain is actually going to serve the purpose of being the primary drain, where over here, it's kind of the secondary drain. Also, a difference is we've packed this drain in mortar. So both drains, whether a line drain or a KERDI drain, a point drain, can be packed in mortar, or we have preformed, pre-sloped trays that can go in. On this side, we're going to use one of those trays. So Bryant's getting this prepped for that tray. So he gave it a little drink of water, because that could be pretty thirsty by the time you get to the job site, and you don't want your first drink of water that slab gets there to be out of your bond coat. So just get it a little bit of damp to do that, and it can clean up any residual dust or bond breakers that could be in there. So the first step, as always with thinset, use the flat side of the trowel, burn the thinset into the substrate to make sure it's got good contact and it's really going to grip, and also spread it out. Get enough thinset out of the bucket and on the substrate, in this case a floor, so that you have enough when you switch the trowel around to the notch side that you're going to have an ample amount of thinset based on the tile size. But in this case, since we're putting down a tray, we're going to be putting the tray in here. We're going to be using a 1/4 inch wide by 3/8 inch deep U-notch trowel. That's going to give plenty of thinset to properly support and seat this line drain tray. Okay, now we're going to put the line drain tray in. As I mentioned, this has got the slope built into it. It's one flat plane sloping towards the drain. You can see that there's a two-sided tape installed on there. That's just going to hold the tray together as you go to install it. If you look at it also from the side, you can see that it does have the pitch already in there. So that's one less thing you have to do. So it drops right in place, and then it's a good idea to protect the KERDI that's on the foam if you're going to do any kind of work inside the shower. So just a scrap piece of cardboard or something would work quite well. And then also firmly embed the tray down into the bond coat. Make certain it's fully supported. Okay, now these are the supports for the channel body, and they're going to go right in front. And that's what the channel body is actually going to sit on for support. We'll put some more thinset in there in a minute. Now, Brian, I can see right here that we're lower than the floor outside the shower, and that's going to serve two purposes for us. One is going to accommodate the thickness of the drain body, the flange on there, and also we want a little bit of an elevation difference between here and here, so in case some water does make its way across the drain, that it won't get all the way out on the floor. It'll tend to come and fall back into the drain. So that's a little key there that's going to be important. Again, the whole idea with joining the drains to each other, abutting them lengthwise, is that even if water does make its way around the one drain, it's still going to drop into the next one that's adjacent. We're using the same notch trowel, 1/4 by 3/8 deep, that we used to put down the tray. We're using that same one here to put the channel body supports in. There you go, Bryant. Now you will notice there's a gap in between the two supports there. That's because we need some space between the two drains to get the clip that's going to join the two grates together. When we get to that point, we're going to need a little gap in there. That is going to be filled with thinset when we drop in the actual channel bodies. So that's the next step, is to actually get the channel bodies in. Okay, so here's the first drain body. So if this was an actual installation and you needed to hook up the plumbing through the top hole here, we would have actually put a no-hub connector with a short stub of pipe so we could do that connection now. Now these drains are made out of a pretty rigid stainless steel, so there's no need to fill in the channel underneath the support any more than you saw Bryant do right there. This can bear a tremendous amount of weight. So now we got the first one in, and it's time to drop the second one in. Okay, so we have both of the drain bodies in, we have the tray in, so the next step is going to be starting the waterproofing. We did some pre-cutting of the KERDI and KERDI-BAND here, so for efficiency's sake, but I did want to show you what we did down here. This is the original shape of the outside corner that we have used to treat here, but you can see that it hung over into the channel body, so we did a little bit of trimming here to get it out of the way. Also, the KERDI collar that is attached to the drain was folding over to here too, so we cut that back, but we still have a nice overlap there. So now that's all ready to go, so pre-cut and ready to go. So the first thing we're going to have to do, because the KERDI collar is already attached to this KERDI line drain, it's very simple to make that watertight connection with that piece. So very small notch trowel that Brian's using here. It's about an 8 by 8 square notch. You could use a 3/16 V notch. That's going to be plenty of thinset to firmly embed the KERDI into that bond coat to make a nice watertight seal. So he's used that thinset. It's mixed to a fairly fluid consistency, but still able to hold a notch. That's just about where you want it. And you can see he's just pressing lightly. It doesn't take a lot of force to firmly embed the KERDI into the bond coat, knocking down those ribs and working out any air bubbles that might be underneath there. So that's going to get us a nice watertight seal. And of course, the tray already had the KERDI installed on it, so that completes our watertight seal right there. Now we aren't going to finish all the waterproofing of this KERDI collar outside the floor yet, because we want to show you another little installation tip here in a couple of minutes, so we'll show that to you here shortly. Again, it's always a good idea to get the thinset out of the bucket and onto the substrate and flat trowel it or burn it into the substrate, then flip the trowel around to the notch trowel size to gauge how much thinset you're going to leave there to actually embed the KERDI. So it doesn't really matter which one of these you do first, inside corner, outside corner, or KERDI-band, but we do want to show you a little bit of a tip here on how to measure the piece of KERDI-band that's going to go from the outside corner out here to the inside corner down at that below spot down there. We'll get to that here in a minute. Here we go. All right, now while Brian is spreading thin set for this piece of KERDI-BAND that we folded lengthwise that I've got in my hand here, I did want to show you how we determined the length of this. Here's the inside corner he just put in. You can see the leg on here is longer than 2 inches, and we asked for a 2-inch overlap on all of our seams. So this piece doesn't have to go any further in here than just right to here. And then when we run the other piece in from the other side, it wouldn't come in any further over, which eliminates that triple layer that you would have back there. So you put the inside corner in, the outside corner, you measure between the two, add 2 inches for each one for the overlap, and that's how you determine the length of this piece of KERDI-BAND. It's been folded lengthwise, so you got about 2.5 inches up the wall and 2.5 inches out onto the tray. Okay, we're not going to really complete this entire waterproofing, but we would want to treat all the seams, all the fasteners in a wet area with some KERDI-BAND or patches of KERDI so that you have a continuous waterproof envelope before actually putting the tile on here. But we're going to stop here because there were some other videos where we showed you that, but we did want to complete some of it. Now, Brian, another thing we wanted to show you out here was an addition of another product from Schluter-Systems, our DRAIN, our uncoupling membrane, out here onto the floor.
Absolutely. We get some great advantage out of using DRAIN. First of all, it's an uncoupling membrane, so it's allowing the substrate to have its independent movement and not affect the tile covering on top. Plus, it is another waterproof membrane. So these are wet areas, so it's a perfect product to use for both of those reasons. Plus, there's one more thing. It's a little thicker, so it's going to give us a little more height out here, almost acting like another dam to keep the water going to the drains.
Just a little bit more of a barrier to keep the water from rolling out on the floor. So let's just temporarily put this in place to show you how it would actually go in there. Just lift these up. Of course, it would go underneath.
And of course, it'd be thin-setted.
Yeah, we'd thin set this down as we have done in other videos, and then do the same process we did here to finish off this. And we're really not going to treat this shower over here. We showed you really these two showers to show you making two line drains continuous as we went across here. But you can see now we do have a bit of a recess there too, so that's going to work out quite nicely. Now, one more thing to do is to select a drain.
Let's look at the grates.
So we've got the drain body in. Let's take a look at the grates. We did want to show you our new style, our new design here. There's 3 styles out right now, and they have a very thin sidewall around them. So you can see the difference. The heavy-duty stainless steel that's in there, but what we're going to use here are these. So we have 3 different options here. 2 of them, a solid and a perforated with the frame, and then this one also, which is a tileable one that would fit right in here, and you adhere a piece of tile to the top of that, and then your tile to each side.
That's a real popular look too, Andy.
It is very popular. Now, as far as putting this one in, let's go ahead and put a couple of these in here.
Yeah, and as you remember, we have this properly spaced, the channel bodies, so that when we get our frames in with our grates, we can use this last piece.
We can use the connector. Now, one thing about these drains, they're going to be sitting up here a bit to flush out with the tile that's going to be abutting to both sides of the frame. And then you use this last piece here. You can see you just back butter this. You fill this full of thin set, and this is placed in here between the drains. Now, there is a little bit of play on both sides of this, depending on what size your grate lounge are going to be out here on your floor and in your shower. So you have some adjustment there, and that's what's going to tie them together.
Awesome.
So there you go. You get some new style of grates, our original style. We put them in. We've got continuous waterproofing, in our line drains across the front to intercept water as it's coming out, or in this case it's a secondary, so water would go down here, but if any did come over here, it would catch it, and then we've got that little bit of a recess here. So we've covered that, the recess, the shower tray, a lot of different stuff on here, but there's other instructions besides this video.
Yeah, for more information on these installations and others, please refer to our shower system installation handbook.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.